Welcome to Reddit Aliens. Serious. What is the scariest thing to have happened to you while you were home alone? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I was home alone at my dad's while he was working nights, making my dinner and everything. I was probably about 14 or 15 at the time. I was watching TV while my potatoes were cooking when I heard something slam into the front door. I grabbed my pocket knife and check it out. Nothing. About 10 minutes later, I hear another bang on the front door. Repeat, and still nothing. Really freaked me out because we'd had a few houses get broken into on my street. Turns out, I didn't put enough holes in my baked potatoes, and they exploded in the oven. Was home alone one night, and it was close to Halloween in 2015. Loud-ass knock on the front door. I was eating dinner, so I slowly but cautiously go to the front door, open it up, and there's blood all over the front porch, and no one there. Kinda freaked out a bit, thought it was a prank. Called the cops because what the F, you know? They said they would send someone there. They called back and said someone was on a bike and fell, and was bleeding bad and was going door to door asking for help. I missed the person, but one of my neighbors helped him out apparently. Crazy. Yes, finding a pool of blood on your front door is reason enough to call the police. Good job. The scariest thing that happened to me, I didn't know actually happened until the following day. I lived in an apartment in a not so good part of a dangerous city with my boyfriend who worked nights. One day our friend came over and called me to let him in our building in a hurry. Turns out this guy had been crouched by my car in the parking lot and had approached our friend and closed in on him. My friend pulled out a weapon and the guy ran off. Upstairs I noticed that the guy had left a green bundle near my car and assumed he would be back for it. It made me uncomfortable, so I suggested we call the cops. Not 5 minutes after, a cop showed up to ask where the guy had gone. SWAT, K9, and about 10 cars showed up and swarmed our area. Turns out, the guy had escaped from county that night before with 2 other guys. He was in jail for assault with a deadly weapon and repeated domestic violence offenses. He had climbed the fence in the yard behind our building where our landlord kept his camper, broken into the camper, and stayed there the night before. He had stolen all the electronics out of it as well as a butcher's knife and was trying to break into my car before my friend showed up. I had been alone the night before and had taken my dog down to the yard to go to the bathroom. I noticed that the barbed wire on the top of the fence had fallen down and my dog was nervous, but I brushed it off. The guy had been in the camper watching me the whole time and I never knew it. Probably pretty lame compared to most stories on here, was working pretty late, re 2 a.m. on my computer when I get an alert from my security camera that detected motion. I checked it and there was a person staring into my apartment window in full view of where I was working. I closed the computer, turned off the lights and went into the bathroom for a bit. Turns out being extra paranoid when someone is staring into your apartment at 2 a.m. isn't a good combination. I checked the camera memory and the guy was there for 20 minutes, just real casual. Called the cops and the kid ran away and came back an hour later. I haven't seen him since. It was about 8:30 at night and I heard the front door open. I called out from my room asking why my mom and dad were home only a half hour after they left for dinner. I almost shit my pants and straight up jumped out the window when a random male voice replied, "What? There's somebody here?" Turns out it was somebody who got hired to check on one of our neighbor's dogs when they were on vacation and he got the wrong house address. But the raw fear that gripped me when I heard his voice still gives me nightmares. There had been a scratching in my ceiling for a while and my landlady was dragging her feet over having it looked into. One night around 2 a.m., the scratching became so bad it woke me up from a dead sleep. I tried to reassure myself that whatever it was couldn't really get through to me and I would be fine until I could call my landlady the next day and really press the issue. Then, some debris fell from my ceiling. Whatever was up there had managed to dig a small hole into my room. I screamed and heard some scurrying away from my approximate location. Grabbed any stuff I needed for the next day, got the F out of there, shut the door tight behind me, and slept on the couch. I called my landlady first thing in the morning and she had someone come while I was at work that day to check it out. A mama raccoon had managed to get her way into the space between the roof and my ceiling and had given birth to a litter of kids. The guy speculated that the kids were getting old enough to start wrestling around, and that was likely what led to the hole in my ceiling. Luckily, it was just small, the size of a quarter. so there weren't any angry raccoons hanging out in my room when I got home. They were able to safely trap and release the whole little family, but I still started hunting for new apartments ASAP. I moved into my new place on May 1st. When I was younger, my mom left me and my little brother home alone while she ran to the store. I was in middle school, so old enough to be left home safely for an hour, and my bro was only 2 years younger. Mom leaves, and me and my brother are watching TV in the living room, and we see a bunch of smoke from the big bay window facing the front yard shortly after she leaves. We look, and a car has crashed into the ditch that is next to our driveway. I grab the phone, and we go out onto the porch. I call 911 and give them my address. Then I call my grandma and tell her what happened. Cops and whole emergency entourage gets there. I go talk to the cops. Mind you, we lived on a state route. It's a 2-lane road, so the entire section of road in the front of my house is closed off. My mom rounds the corner of the side road to pull onto the street and sees a ton of cop cars in our driveway and shutting down the road. 2 fire trucks, at least 2 ambulances, and as my mom, seeing this, freaks out. Note about the road and our house: the road is significantly higher than the ditch, so it's entirely possible to miss the wrecked car, especially when you know you left your kids home alone. They allow her to park in the neighbor's driveway since ours is currently occupied, and we see her sprinting across the yard. The cops intercept her. She sees that me and my brother are okay and is able to calm down enough to talk to the cops. TLDR. Car crashed in our front yard when I was left home alone. Gave mom a heart attack from all the emergency vehicles surrounding her house when she tried to drive down the road. I think that any parent listening to this would agree that this scenario would be more frightening than just about any home invasion. Glad you're okay. I was probably 9 years old. My sister was 6. We had a babysitter who was 12, so alone in the sense that no adults were around. Jackass that I was, I squirted bug spray on my sister and she chased me in retaliation. I ran through some French glass doors to get away from her. She went for the knob and missed. Her arm went through one of the glass panes. She cut herself so deep you could see muscle, tendons, and bone. It looked like a shitty cut piece of raw meat, since that's basically what it was. The babysitter held a piece of cloth on my sister's arm until my mom came home, called her right away, and took my sister to the ER. She didn't hit an artery, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it was scary as F at the time. Got 60 stitches out of it. Early teen years. Power went out while I was taking a shower late at night. I got out of the shower, already freaked out, and looked outside through the window. My house was the only one without power. Stupid teenage brain. This is clearly an attempt on my life. Reality. House had a weird problem where the power would cut out if the water heater and air conditioner happened to turn on at the same time. It had never happened to me before that, but my dad assured me that that was the problem once he finally came home. It was a hot summer, and my parents went to a wedding. I had a project to do, and it was like 1 a.m. and silent until a random drunk dude crawled in through my window with a bottle and blush face. I was 20 feet away at my desk from the window, and we both just stared at each other. He was flustered and said, "Oh, sorry there, kid, wrong house," and attempts to leave the way he came. He was drunk and dizzy, so I helped him by pushing him out the window. I thoroughly shut it and stared at it for 2 hours until my parents came home. Someone tried to break into my neighbor's house while I was babysitting their kids. I was 15 and I used to babysit for my neighbors down the block. They had a really nice house, 3 floors with a built-in garage under the house that connected to the basement. It was the family's most used entrance of the house, and they rarely locked the basement door as long as the garage was closed. They also had the type of security system where anytime a door opens you heard beep beep beep. After the parents left one night, I was putting the kids to bed and I heard the beep beep beep. I yelled out, thinking it was the parents coming back for something, but no one answered. The system on the wall kept reading basement door open. I was freaked out, so I called my dad and asked him to come by since he was only a few houses away. When he arrived, he told me to stay in the kitchen while he checked the house, but before he could, we heard the beep 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 again, and then the garage door opened. When we ran to the window to see if the parents were pulling into the driveway, they weren't. Instead, someone in a hoodie was running out of the garage door and into the woods behind the house. My dad ended up calling the cops. I'm still creeped out by it. I was in my basement where the computer was playing some game, probably RuneScape, and heard someone pull into the driveway. naturally assuming it was my mother who was coming home from work. I heard the screen door open, but when no one opened the lock on the actual door, I started to go upstairs, and I saw a pair of legs go by the window. While the basement was underground, there was about a foot that popped up above ground level and had 2 windows. I go upstairs and see 2 dudes in my backyard looking at the windows and talking about the door was locked. It was an attempted home robbery. We had been broken into a few times at that point and had everything locked, but 10-year-old me was terrified. Just me and my mom. She got drunk and fell down the stairs. She knocked herself out cold and I had to administer CPR while the paramedics came. She has no recollection of this incident, denies it, and no one else in my family can relate to how scary it is seeing someone almost die and having their life in your hands. I don't know how first responders do it. This just happened to me last week. I woke up to someone in my house, walking up the stairs to my bedroom. It was about 1 p.m. and I work 3rd shift, so I was sleeping. In my haste, I didn't grab my bat. I whip open my door and it's my ex-best friend, whom I've blocked on every social media site. She starts yelling at me for not responding to her and how she misses me. I don't know what scared me more, the split second I realized there was an intruder, or that someone I knew would just take it upon themselves to force me to talk to them by trespassing. When I was around 8 or 9, my mom commuted to a major city about an hour and a half away, so I would bring myself home from school about 100 meters away, lock the door, and watch cartoons or play Neopets until she got home. We lived in apartment blocks, and one day one of the older male people in the apartment lost his wallet, and he figured it must have been me. Keep in mind, I've never stolen anything in my life or had any trouble with the law, and I had no clue what he was talking about. He came and banged on the door so aggressively that I jumped out of my skin and was belligerent, demanding I open the door. I rang Mom crying, and she jumped on a train to come home, but she was about an hour and a half away. She called some friends, and they came and got me, and at that stage, he had taken a break and gone back to his apartment, but left his dry cleaning there. When Mom got back, she stormed straight to his door and pounded on it like he had done to our door. He came to the door all shocked, and she demanded to know why he thought it was appropriate to bang on the door for an hour to scare a little girl. He replied that he thought I stole his wallet. Mom asked him if he still thought I did, and he said no, I found it in the car park. She looked like she wanted to kill him and forced him to apologize. Also, in that same apartment block, there was a hairline fracture on the sliding door that we didn't know about. A strong wind blew and shattered the entire window inwards. I was home alone then too. That was scary as F. It was spooky movie night at a friend's, and we were 3 movies deep, just finished watching Dark Skies. I was hungry, so I was like, alright, getting my leftovers. So I went downstairs by myself. When I closed the fridge, I caught movement out of the corner of my eye, and when I turned to see what it was, there was a ghostly white skeletal thing just staring at me from outside the patio, with shimmering hazy lights pulsing behind it. I effing freaked, dropped my food and ran upstairs, nearly in tears, babbling about someone or thing in the backyard. Turns out, it was just my own reflection, mixed with the lights and steam from the hot tub outside, but I've never been so scared in my life. Okay, there are at least 3 gigantic problems with this scenario. Can you name them? We lived outside a rural town, and my mother always told my father not to leave me home unsupervised because it was a 20-minute drive from town if some accident were to occur. Anyway, my dad was a completely irresponsible parent, and so he ignored that advice and instead left me at home by myself at age 7. Oof. However, before he left to go back to a meeting, he explained how to load and cock his 12-gauge shotgun under his bed with buckshot and told me if anyone comes to the door and tried to break in, shoot them. Fast forward a couple hours. My mother calls him and asks how everything is going. He says I'm home alone. She loses her mind and rushes out of work to come home and get me. In her rush, she forgets her house keys. So she gets home and starts banging on the front door. I didn't hear her voice at all, so being the obedient child I am, I go into my parents' room, load the gun, and bring it towards the door. I cock it, and I don't know if my mom heard it or what, but she suddenly stopped banging and yelled my name instead. It's probably the only reason she's alive today. I was really scared before I knew it was her, but I assume my dad was smart and told me the right thing to do. I was actually at a friend's house when her parents weren't home. We were maybe 10. It was her, my sister, her sisters, and me. We decided to go swimming. There had been a rash of burglaries lately, but most garages being broken into. Anyway, we were in the pool when we noticed the kitchen light turn on. It was evening. We assumed her parents, so looked in the window to do something stupid to get their attention when we realized we do not know the individual in the house. We hid behind the wall of the pool above ground, terrified until her parents finally came home. It appeared as though he got spooked, as he only ransacked the kitchen and left the garage door wide open when fleeing. This happened many years ago, when I was but a youngster. In my suburb, there had recently been a spate of breaks and enters. Where I live, they tend to happen suburb by suburb. Like, one suburb will get hit a bunch, then there'll be nothing for a while. My family had gone away for the weekend, but I had stayed home because I had work. I was up at midnight watching a James Bond movie, Live and Let Die for those playing at home, with all the lights in the house turned off, and I heard a really sudden and strange thud from my kitchen living area. I instantly knew it was a weird noise. Nothing in the house made any noise like that, so it was immediately suspicious. Just as I was about to get up and to go check it out, I heard it again. That's when I realized it was actually the thudding of the thick glass sliding door from the kitchen to the outdoor patio. As I mentioned, all the lights are off, so I'm making my way through the house, turning lights on. When I reached the light switch to turn on the patio light, I hit all of the lights at once, including the light at my front door, which is visible from where I'm now standing. We had those glass panels next to the front door, which I could now also see out since the light was on. There was nobody at the patio area at this time, but through the glass panels at the front door, I saw someone sprint past and out of the yard. Even though I couldn't see any detail, it was unmistakable to see that it was a person running past. It later occurred to me that they were most likely kicking the glass patio door to try to smash it and break in. As I later learned, this is apparently one common method of entry during burglaries. I had initially assumed they were hitting it with something, but a boot would explain the deep, hollow thud of the noise better than striking it with something. It was pretty spooky at the time, just that sudden realization of that is not a normal noise, kind of crazy what your intuition knows in moments like that.